Welcome to the circle and to this very wonderful Monday mindfulness meditation practice. We have been gathering for 10 weeks now.
Wow.
Which is kind of incredible to think it's been 10 weeks since this coronavirus knocked on the door and said, hey, everybody, it's time to wake up. And here we are, still sheltering in place for the most part, and doing the work of transformation and awakening. So, excuse me, I'm just going to mute everyone. And and then we'll continue. So here we are, 10 weeks into this process of transformation and awakening, and practicing to come into full presence with ourselves and with each other and with the web of life, with Gaia, who is clearly speaking to us. She has been speaking to us for quite a while, and it, I think, took this virus to get our attention more fully. So we've been talking about transformation, and I wanted to go back to that a little bit more, Ellen, and others who suggested that might be of interest. But I want to talk first about being gentle with ourselves in this time, in this process, because it takes courage to face ourselves and face the truth of the world around us and our own patterns and the patterns of conditioning that have affected us and affected the world and got us to this place. So one of the things I love about the practice of mindfulness is that it is actually really gentle. You know, just coming back to the breath is a very simple thing. It's not a big fancy thing. It's not a big heavy thing. It's just a simple thing of breathing, and breathing is with us all of the time. So we're coming back to our own nature, and we're creating the conditions for transformation and awakening to happen. Just simply by breathing in and breathing out. And that simple act actually connects us with the entire web of life. It brings us into the awareness of our capacity to conspire with each other on the path of awakening. And so many of our habitual patterns that come up when we meditate, that we become aware of when we stop, those patterns can, many of them, be released all on their own when we give attention to this act of kindness to ourselves, you know, to get to show up and to be present with what is actually happening as it is happening, and to feel it. And once we touch into that place, then so many things just release all on their own. We see things more clearly. We understand and we have compassion, because compassion is our nature. So that gentleness and that kindness to ourselves is also a very powerful, program that we are initiating within in order to face and do the work of transformation that is not always easy. Thich Nhat Hanh, I may have mentioned this before, but Thich Nhat Hanh talks about in the precepts, you know, that we have to water the seeds of joy in ourselves in order to facilitate the work of transformation at the depths of our consciousness, because that work is challenging. But so in order to do it, we have to have some really strong positive energy in order to hang in there, or we'll just do something else. So this process of transforming poison, so-called poison, into wisdom is at the core of the teachings in a lot of ways. And this alchemy that we are going into by practicing awareness, I mean, that is the alchemy, the awareness. What we do with what we experience and see. And to affect the changes that we are hoping for, relaxation and ease are a big key. And this is another sort of goes back to the thing of being gentle with ourselves. Because when we're uptight, or anxious, we're not going to transform. We're not going to release and let go. We are going to continue feeding the kind of uptight energy, the reactivity. But when we can relax, then we can experience things letting go. And that is another thing about meditation. You know, it should be enjoyable. And when we find our seat and take our seat and you know, arrive in our posture and, you know, whatever it is that is how we want to practice, how our bodies are inviting us to show up, that too, our physical experience needs to be comfortable. We won't do it if we don't enjoy it. We won't do it if we don't, if we're not comfortable, you know. So we have that gentleness as well, to be comfortable with ourselves, to facilitate this process. Are you with me? Okay, good. So the mandala is a map. You've seen so many mandalas in wisdom traditions and in medicine wheel teachings, and in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, the mandala shows up a lot. And that mandala is a map of the psyche. It's a map of wholeness. So there are the directions, and the 4 directions in the center being the kind of core structure. And the colors, the 5 colors, embodying these different energies that we spoke about, that take the form of elemental energies, such as earth, air, fire, water, and space, the 5 elements, and the 5 poisons, that's what they're called in the tradition. But these are the 5 reactive emotions that are the basic kind of downfalls of us humans when we are caught in our shit. And those poisons are anger or hatred, desire or greed, Pride, jealousy, which also takes the form of envy or competition, and ignorance, which takes different forms, but the way I like to describe it most is that quality of ignoring, denial, right? So each of those is related to one of the elements. So ignorance is related to space element, spacing out. Desire is related to fire element, passion, fire. Pride is related to the earth element. Very stubborn, very solid, very grounded. The anger is related to the water element. So water, they say that anger is, it's hot or cold. It can be very sharp, like when it's frozen. It can be also incredibly clear and, So anyway, and jealousy is connected to the air element. Busy, busy, busy. Jealousy is the one who is always trying to get ahead competitively. When locked into, these are the reactive emotions. So that air, it's always moving, always trying to get somewhere. So, but the trick with all of this is to see these as energies and not attach to them when they arise as being something that we identify with, even though, of course, as humans, we are super identified with these emotional qualities when they arrive, when we get triggered. And but so to go back to the mandala, these are energies. The colors, all right, are a one way of remembering the nature of these energies in their more essential state. It was interesting. I was talking with Hugh earlier about this, and his comment was that the mandala is a place or a way that we can make a conscious connection to the field, the larger field of awareness itself, and order the chaos to harmonize with the universe. It's the place where movement begins. So this is getting into the kind of more esoteric part of all of this, because before there is any kind of form, there is sound and color and light, right? And the mandala and the elemental energies are the way in which these energies begin to take form and to begin to move. And so when we're going through our lives, reacting wildly to everything that's coming along, it's pretty chaotic. It's pretty crazy. And the mandala is a way to bring that crazy stuff into a coherent field that we can work with, that we can do that work of transforming poison into wisdom. And to see it, recognize it as energy, recognize these qualities as energy. And harmony is the intention. Harmony is the direction. You know, we want peace in our lives. So the colors that are associated with these qualities, anger is the blue, often blue-black. It's like a dark blue. Desire is red. Pride is yellow. Jealousy is green. And ignorance is white. And so this is where we get into the rainbow, the rainbow light of the elemental energies before they even come into form. These are the building blocks of life force energies. That's how I see these in their essential nature, which is our own nature. These are these water, fire, air, earth, space. These are energies that are elemental to life on earth. And when we get triggered and we attach to whatever is arising and react, we're actually reacting based on one of those elemental energies getting acting out. But they have their wisdom. So and just please bear with me, because I realize this is, a little bit hard to get around in a way. But the model, the map, is so useful if you can, begin to work with these levels of it. The wisdom is what arises in relationship to each of these 5 poisons, 5 elemental energies. When awareness is present. So through the practice of meditation, we're developing our capacity to be aware and present with whatever is arising, without losing awareness when we have a reaction or when something arises in our lives that is pulling us into an old pattern. When we can stay in our awareness, in our mindfulness, in the face of that, then slowly, slowly, we begin to see what is. We can see this pattern as, an energetic thread that goes all the way back to the beginning. And it begins to release when we have that awareness. So then we can start to see the energy of anger, for example, as mirror-like wisdom. The clarity that comes when anger is expressed purely, as just an energy of clarity, of mirror-like wisdom. And at that point, the edge, sometimes you've probably had the experience of being on the receiving end of that kind of wisdom. It's challenging, but you can recognize the truth. And that's a gift. So that's mirror-like wisdom. Or maybe you've been able to deliver that, standing up in a certain situation where clarity is called for, and you see, and somehow or other it comes through, you know. So the wisdom of desire is called discernment, or sometimes discriminating awareness wisdom, but I prefer the word discernment to discrimination because of the connotations of discrimination. So we're talking about having discernment, having the capacity to recognize and not constantly be seducing the world or being seduced by the world, grasping for whatever is going to make us feel good. Mm-hmm. Yum, 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 you know, or, you know, just wanting, that wanting feeling. And, you know, in relationships, it's like, uh-oh, you know, we just get ourselves into so much trouble because of not having that discernment. So to feel that fire and passion and love, you know, desire, but having the capacity to be discerning right there. That is the wisdom of discerning awareness. The fire element. The earth element is pride. And that wisdom is called the wisdom of equanimity. So balance, being so present that we are in that place of equanimity where it's like you just see through it all. And a person who tends towards this is the kind of person that when they walk into the room, you feel enriched by their presence. They're very nurturing, enriching. There's that equanimity that makes you just feel relaxed and comfortable and nourished. So that equanimity is such an important quality of wisdom to integrate into our experience. So that's also the yellow, whereas the fire is the red, the anger is, and the water is the blue. And these are the water element is in the east. The earth element is in the west. The fire element is in the, excuse me, east is blue. South is yellow. West is red, and north is green. So this is the mandala beginning to come together in the directions. And so the green is the air element, is the transformation of jealousy into all accomplishing wisdom. So the capacity to, like green Tara, you know, just jump into action, responding to whatever is called for, you know, with the right thing, effortlessly. That quality of being so present. And it's true with all of these. The key with all of these is selflessness. We get over ourselves, over our reactivity, over our little shitty, you know, nature, and get on with it and respond selflessly to what is being asked of us. So the green is this all-accomplishing wisdom. When you find yourself in a place of just the flow, you know, and artists really know this place where it just starts to flow. I've noticed it in my writing and in the book, you know, where it just comes, or when we're, you know, producers and organizers, and instead of it being so full of effort to try to make something happen, where it just happens, you know, and there's a flow to how it's happening. That's all accomplishing wisdom. When we've put ourselves out of the way and we're in response instead of reaction. And in the center is the space element. And all of these can move around, so that if you happen to find yourself in an air situation or a fire situation, that would come into the center, and the other four would be around. So they can intermix in that way. And some of us have different natures. So, you know, we find ourselves reacting in anger more, or maybe we jump into just doing, busy. That's another reactive pattern associated with the air element. So in the center, we have, generally speaking, we have in the white color, we have the space element. And this is this quality of ignorance that is, you know, old times they would say stupid. But again, I don't like the connotation of what stupid is. So let's think about ignorance as a kind of avoidance, you know, and a denial of, like, I'd rather just space out and eat ice cream and lie on the couch than deal with whatever it is. Yeah. And I don't want to face this. It's too much. It's overwhelming. So I'm just going to, you know, go watch a movie and, or maybe have a drink, or, you know, there's a lot of ways you can react in relationship to this one. So, but the wisdom nature is, it's called the wisdom of Dharma Dhatu, or the wisdom of all what's the word? Encompassing spaciousness. So a quality of just so much presence and spaciousness that, you know, you are just there. You're so there with so much openness that you can be with whatever is arising. So I want to bring this to a close because time is moving on, and I hope that wasn't too much information or details. I've worked with these five Buddha families, as they're called, for many years, and have gotten so much mileage out of this model. And through the practice of meditation, visualization, contemplation, we really can go a long ways in relaxing and dissolving our ideas and our concepts and our emotional fixations and reactions that are so habitual that we get caught in over and over and over and over. And we think, how can we possibly really change? You know, how's this really possible? Because I come up against this all the time. You know, oh, here it is again. There's that. I'm 70 years old, and, you know, here we are again. So this is familiar to all of us, but it's a model. And, you know, it's like, thank you, precious wisdom beings who saw into these things and brought them forward for us to work with, because they are powerful tools. And relaxing and transforming our habits is really at the core of the Dharma practice, so that we are not governed by our habits, but we're governed by more and more and more the wisdom nature that is the elemental nature of us and Gaia as one. So we do this work for the sake of all beings. You know, we do this transformation practice to support the web of life in us and around us, in waking up and not being governed by those habitual patterns and ridiculous ways of living that are based on greed, a lot of them, right? Greed and power and all of these poisons are what have got us into this mess. Okay, soapbox down, back to the breath. Let's practice so that a lot of those patterns in ourselves, knowing that they are also out there, they will release on their own. And the ones that don't are the ones that we can really consciously, compassionately look deeply at, going to the source of, so that we can understand and arrive at the wisdom that is there. Seeing it all as energy operating in and around us. Knowing that our true nature is compassion. Our true nature is our human nature is to love. So let's love strongly enough, powerfully enough to affect the transformation of poison into wisdom. And now let's offer some incense and go into our practice of sitting, walking, and sitting again.